Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Yesterday, September 30th, 2025, President Trump said at a gathering of generals in Quantico, Virginia, that he was interested in bringing back the battleships. So the museum has gotten a number of questions about what that means for the museum. So this video is going to be partially in response to that, but partially in response to anything else that could happen to the organization. Our main facilities, most of our offices, most of our spaces, the entire public part of the museum is on board the battleship. So without a battleship anymore, what does that mean for us? That could mean that the Navy has taken the battleship back. Check the comment section down below. We did a video probably earlier this week that talks about what that might look like. Or it might be that, hey, we're talking about 100, 200 years in the future, and the battleship has just deteriorated to the point that she doesn't float anymore. We can't use her as a museum. She's not safe to visit. We honestly don't know when that time might be that the ship can no longer be used as a museum. It takes constant upkeep and constant maintenance to the tune of several $1 million a year to operate this vessel and keep her in reasonably sound condition. And then every couple of decades, it requires millions of dollars more than that to do underwater repairs on the ship, on the parts of the ship that we can't normally address. We are a nonprofit that operates the ship. We receive no federal funding. We are owned by the nonprofit, not by the Navy. So if people don't come out and visit the ship and pay for tickets, if people don't give us donations, eventually there will come a time when we do not have enough money coming in to take care of the ship. And again, we don't know when that is. The longest serving permanent museum ship in this country, the Battleship Texas, opens as a museum in 1948. She's commissioned in 1912, so she's already nearly 40 years old by the time that she's turned into a museum. And then she serves up into the present day, but has required some major work to keep that going on. And we watch that work knowing that this is a ship that's about 30 years older than New Jersey, and so in 30 years we will need the same kind of work that they do. And so we'll be watching if there is a point at which people are no longer invested enough in that ship to donate to do the work that needs to be done to preserve her. And if that starts to happen to museum ships, then eventually it happens to us. New Jersey is fortunate because she was operated by the Navy up into the 90s, maintained in mothballs up into the late 90s. So we're in relatively newer condition despite the ship's age. So we will be able to watch trends like this happening over time. So all that said, there is a point when the culture of the United States, if the United States even still exists at that point, no longer values the things that this ship represents, the things that the Navy fought for during World War II and the other time periods of the ship's service. And as soon as that cultural valuation goes away, the ship will no longer be given enough money to stay afloat. The museum has a plan for when that will happen. And so that's why I'm able to stand here and say that, yeah, even if the Navy takes the ship back, which was not something that we had planned for, but even in the slim chance that that happens, the museum has a plan. We would not cease to exist. The museum would transition from being on the ship to fundraising for a landside building, a landside traditional style museum, or maybe we would partner with another existing museum. We've got a couple of options, but the museum would take the artifacts that have been donated and important features like that off of the ship and then turn it into a traditional landside museum. I really love what the South Dakota Museum has done with their Battleship South Dakota Memorial. They weren't able to preserve the whole ship. How do you get a battleship to South Dakota to turn into a museum? But they were able to get several macro artifacts, things like gun barrels, propellers, bells, out to South Dakota, do a museum building, and continue to tell that ship's history and the history of service of South Dakotans. Battleship New Jersey Museum would do the same exact thing. And so even from day one, like behind me here is the museum's signing wall. Every time a former crew member comes on board the ship, we have them sign the wall. The wall is intentionally a veneer mounted over some of the bunks that are here. This has been here since day one of the museum, one of the earliest things that we installed, and the idea is if something happens, we can no longer operate the ship. All this unbolts, and we can take it with us to our landside museum. So we've done a number of things around the ship where exhibits, artifacts, things like that can relatively easily be removed. We can take equipment off of the bridge and do a faux bridge setup, which I've seen at a number of museums that looks nice. Obviously, it's not as great as having the whole ship, but it would also be a lot less expensive. And if the alternative is disappearing entirely, something is better than nothing. What do you think are some of the most critical artifacts that we would need to pull off of this museum ship and put into a landside museum if we ever did that? What are some of the interesting things you'd like to see on display 200 years from now when that happens? And what are some major exhibits you would like to see at that museum? Let us know in the comment section down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, as well as from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. There's a link in the description below for ways you can donate to support the museum. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find about the museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.